Hey everyone, today I'm joined by Luca De Giglio. Luca, welcome. Thanks for being on the
Hi, Hrish. Thanks for having me.
podcast. Yeah, excited to have you. Luca is the founder of TripsCommunity, a platform that incorporates Web3 into the travel industry. And he's CEO of Adormo, a Web3 travel consultancy. And as an avid traveler and early adopter of Bitcoin, he's an enthusiast of both. He's also a regular contributor to conferences and all things digital and travel and hosts the podcast Web3 and Travel. Luca, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you.
I'd love to start by hearing a bit more about your career and what led you to founding the Trips community.
All right. So basically, I am a traveler at heart. I always wanted to travel, and I started traveling very early in my 20s. I just went around Europe, worked around Europe, hitchhiked a lot, all over Europe, and then I had a couple of years where I was working for a company as a sales manager, traveling around the world this time, so getting out of Europe. And then when I was 28, I kind of decided to travel more. So I left my job and I went for 1 year in Australia. Again, traveling around, backpacking, stuff like this, which ended up being 7 months in Australia and four months in Asia. And I remember that I was looking for something exotic and really far from Europe in Australia, which I didn't find because Australia is very European, and I found that in Bali, in Thailand, etc. Once I was traveling in Asia, I realized that the budget to travel wasn't much, so I could travel all time, full time, without a lot of money. And that was the 2000, right? The pre-dot-com bubble thing. So everybody was talking about the internet, and I found myself, I had this travel blog. So it wasn't actually called blog at the time. It was just writing stuff online. And somebody was helping me publishing it because I couldn't do, at the time you had to know HTML to publish stuff. Web 1, read only. So very few people were writing.
Mhm.
And then this person left, and I found myself in a coffee shop, in an internet cafe in Sydney, where you could stay 2 hours. Sorry, as long as you wanted, with $2. So I found a way to publish stuff online by learning this difficult HTML, which turned out to be very easy. And that's when I started getting this superpower of writing stuff on this new medium where most people were not able to write on, right? And that was a revelation because I realized, you see, it seemed like a mountain to learn programming,
Mhm.
HTML, and it actually was a little bump on the road. And I passed this bump on the road, and I was in the 1% or 5% of, maybe 1% of world population who could actually write on this new thing. And that changed everything for me because my blog became famous. The Italian radio called me, so it gave me a bit of notoriety. And when I went back to Italy, I said, I'm not gonna go back to an office, right? That was the plan. But then I said, no, I can earn a bit of money and keep traveling. I wanted to travel full time. And I had this idea because in the 90s, I traveled in Eastern Europe a lot, right? After the Berlin Wall fell, I traveled extensively to Eastern Europe. And I remember that when I arrived in the Prague Central Station, there were always some ladies coming with pictures and showing me apartments, which I could rent.
Mhm.
And I did rent them for a few times, and it was a good deal. And I thought to myself, I should put those apartments online. In Australia, I had purchased a digital camera. There was one of the first cameras called Sony Mavica with a floppy disk as a memory. So it had, like, I don't know, how much is a floppy disk in memory? 500K? I mean,
Something like that.
nothing.
I forget now. Yeah.
But I had the superpower of writing on this new medium called the internet, and I had another, like, had a secret weapon. I could actually take pictures and publish them.
Wow.
At the time, you had to, with a camera, you had to develop the film, print the pictures, and then scan them. But I had this super thing, very expensive, where I could take pictures, ugly and small pictures, but pictures, digital pictures. And so I had this idea to put these ladies' apartments online. I went to the railway station. I pretended I was a travel agency with a fake business card, and I told them, I'm a travel agency in Italy. I want to send you customers. I need to come to your apartment, take pictures. You tell me your price. I put some commission on top. Send your customers, and so you don't have to spend your day in the railway station to get your customers, because there was early in the morning, late at night, whenever the train would come from Vienna or Italy or whatever, they were there, right? So they said, okay, why not? It was like no win-win situation. So I did this website in 2001 with 6 apartments, and it started working immediately. I started getting people asking me to book the apartments, and there was no PayPal. There was one of the ladies didn't even have email, so I had to do it by SMS, but it worked. So I had a business. I was making some money with the commissions, and then I replicated this in Budapest and then in Krakow and other cities in Eastern Europe. To make the story short, I basically invented the Airbnb model 7 years before Airbnb, but as a lifestyle business. So I was making enough money to travel full-time all over the world. And that was my goal. It didn't even cross my mind that to make a startup and make it big, right? And that gave me easily 10 years of full-time travel around the world.
Wow. How many cities were you doing this in like in terms of?
I 6 or 7 cities, and when I reached the last city, it became hard to expand because competition was coming.
Yeah.
So I stopped about 7 cities, and that was enough for me to travel. So you have to imagine that I was doing this as a part-time thing because most of the time I was traveling, right? So yeah, for many years I was traveling, and then one day Airbnb came on the market, and they basically destroyed my business completely. And I had no hope, of course, to compete. So that changed my life again. But after all those years, I couldn't really have any bad feelings about anything. I was so lucky and so privileged that whatever happened to me, say, okay, I probably deserve that. So I didn't take it too badly. I launched a startup to help people actually get bookings from Airbnb and Booking.com, etc. I got into an incubator and moved to Sofia in Bulgaria. But then I realized after a few years that this kind of work, helping people being on those platforms, was actually helping them kind of being exploited by those platforms, because you could make a lot of money as a host at the beginning, and then I saw that the margins were getting smaller and smaller, while the commissions got higher and higher, right? So I kind of got into a crisis. It's like, okay, I'm making a bit of money with this, but I don't like it. I want to do something different. And then in the meantime, I discovered Bitcoin in 2013, and I tried to get paid in Bitcoin. And let me tell you this story because it's interesting. 2014, I put hundreds of apartments on a map. I think it's called Coin Map, where you can see businesses accepting Bitcoin. And I didn't get any requests for paying. That was like when Bitcoin had gone very high to $1,000, and then it crashed. And people were kind of confused. And then slowly people started asking to book. But at that moment, I was trying to I opened a company for the same startup in London, and I was desperately trying to open a bank account. And no one would touch us. Nobody wanted to open a bank account with us because we were a startup, right? Startups are kind of dangerous. I don't know what. So one bank said, okay, we're going to open a bank account for you, but you have to remove Bitcoin from your website. I said, why? Well, because Bitcoin is dangerous. That bank, and I swear, was Silicon Valley Bank.
Wow.
Which is dead now, and Bitcoin is alive. All right. And the worst thing is that when I removed Bitcoin from the website, I started getting so many requests to pay in Bitcoin for the apartment. And that would like be 5 Bitcoin for a week. And I would have kept one as a commission, something like that. I would have made so much money with that, but again, when you are in crypto, you don't really regret too much. Things happen all the time. So yeah, and after that, I discovered Ethereum and the concept of DAOs, so decentralized autonomous organizations, which means we can do some platform like Airbnb or like the one I did before, but without the profit for the company as a driver, but with the profit for the community as a driver. Like, we're gonna do this together. Everybody's gonna earn money, and the platform, so the software is not going to be kind of predatory, trying to get as much money as possible for the shareholders. Is going trying to be like as little impactful as possible in terms of price.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like the internet itself, it's a great tool, but we don't pay for the internet a lot.
Yeah.
The internet is kind of free. Yeah, we pay a bit for the services, a few dollars per month, but the internet itself is not a company trying to maximize the money. Those were the telecoms, So if the telecoms were not basically killed by the internet in their business model, today we would be paying this call $50 or something like that. Mm-hmm. If it's even possible to have this kind of quality. So the same concept applied to platforms, in specifically booking platforms. So I launched TripsCommunity with this idea in mind in 2017. Mm-hmm. It turned out to be a bit early, or a lot early, because for a few years there was basically no scalability in blockchains. We partnered with a Silicon Valley company, Origin Protocol. They did the software to do bookings and other things. It was a marketplace, and we did we tried to get the hosts and the guests. Mm-hmm. But then Ethereum started being expensive. One transaction will be $5, and that completely killed the model. Then the years passed, and we got scalability today, mm-hmm. but we still don't have adoption of wallets because we haven't solved this problem. Wallets are difficult, and even if you make the extra effort to learn, they are dangerous. And we've seen what happened with the NFTs, like the Bored Ape Yacht Club people who lost, they get fished all the time and stuff. So in the last couple of years, we decided, okay, let's forget the booking platform. This is too much. This is going to be the end of the process, not the beginning. Mm-hmm. Let's try to see if we can build any protocols. But actually, we decided to experiment. Say, okay, let's admit it. It's early. What can we do? Let's try it. Let's see what happens. And we tried a few things. Like, we did the first NFT booking in the world. So a villa in Ibiza, somebody bought the NFT, which represented a week in the villa, and they went to stay. And then we did the first hotel booking in the world in Venice, and a few other things like some PFPs for the travel industry. I don't know if your audience is very Web3 crypto.
Yes.
But okay, great. So we did like a loot NFT project with traveler loot. So with this NFT is black with a text describing a traveler personality and stuff like this. So we've been playing with that. And then the last thing we did was to organize the first Web3 travel conference last year in Porto, Portugal. Okay. And the next one is going to be this year in Barcelona on the 15th of May. So this is getting the industry a bit together. And I say industry when maybe there was no industry 2 years ago, but now there is a small industry from some startups trying to apply Web3 technologies to the travel industry. Yeah. And there we are. So that's kind of the short version of the journey.
That is an exciting journey there of learning and different iterations and experimentations. It sounds like you've, innovated in a few different areas, from Airbnb to Web3 to creating ways for people to benefit from the communities that are being formed on the travel space. So, and doing this conference and everything. So I'm very excited about Web3 and its applications to travel in general. So it's great to be able to hear some of the history of kind of what gave you the insights, particularly as you were kind of building these different businesses and models, what do you think is the biggest insight or benefit that a user has as they approach travel through the perspective of Web3? Like what, I think you kind of alluded to it, but if you were going to go through what are the, if I'm a customer and I'm looking at a centralized travel model versus a Web3 model, what are the things that I would benefit from going through a Web3 provider?
So first of all, today there's not much. It's very experimental. People are trying things. So today, when I travel, I use Web2 companies, and I'm grateful they exist. But the direction seems to be, let me explain it this way. So you have the real world, and then you have the internet on top of it, in a way, right? And on top of the internet, you have blockchain. Blockchain is part of the internet. It's the part of the internet which makes ownership possible. So you probably heard this before, and your audience too, but let's revisit it. So we have Web 1, when most people would only read. Web 2 is the web of today, where people are reading and writing. And Web 3 is the web we are getting into. It's reading, writing, and owning. You run a company where you can own land, digital land. This is real ownership, because the NFT I get from SuperWorld, nobody can take it away from me. So that wasn't possible before. And everything we do in Web 2, there's no ownership. Like your Airbnb account, your Instagram account, your YouTube account, the followers attached to them are not yours, not mine, because tomorrow I can wake up and my Airbnb account is gone and my reviews are gone. Very much like feudal Europe, right? When people would actually work the land, they would, raise their family there, but the land belonged to the king, and the king could come and say, well, you just leave. That's feudalism. And then people started leaving for a new continent called America, where someone decided we don't want kings here. The king is the law. The law says private property cannot be. Private property. The private property concept, total private property. Not even the president can come to you and say, "You give me that land." So what we are seeing the internet today, from Web 2 to Web 3, is the same thing. We are going from a feudal internet, medieval internet, where there's a few kings, and those kings are those big platforms, and we work on their land, okay, to Web 3, where we are going to be owners. There's the rule of law, and the rule of law is expressed in, for instance, smart contracts. So that's the general thing, right? So
yeah,
how does it apply on travel specifically? Well, it's a bit, of course, we have many kind of insights, but we don't really know, right? Is this part of the evolution, which you can call skeuomorphic? You know how you do things today. You try them to do better on this new platform, and it's like I'm probably giving very basic concept. You heard me a million times, but it's very good to have them clear in the mind. It's like when we invented electricity, the first lamps, they were made in the shape of candles. This is skeuomorphic design, because we couldn't imagine another thing. That was the first thing which came to mind. Or when we invented concrete or reinforced concrete, we kept building houses with columns, like Greek columns. Why? Well, because before concrete, you need the columns to support the structure. And only later we realized, well, we can do skyscrapers. We don't need, can only do houses with columns. We can do skyscrapers. But who could even guess or imagine a skyscraper the same day when the concrete was invented or discovered? So having said that, yeah, we have a few ideas of what's going to happen in travel. And one main thing is we're going to replace companies with protocols, meaning the same services which today are provided by these big corporations, let's say Airbnb, because that's where I come from, are going to be provided by the internet itself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we won't need a company to manage the search of the listings, the uploading the listings, making the bookings. Everything is going to be managed by kind of dApps, right? Like Uniswap, decentralized apps with smart contracts. And because the centralized technologies tend to do that, they tend to remove the human intervention. And we've seen it, and I mentioned this before, when we went from telecoms, where I come from a time where to call abroad, you would spend a few dollars a minute, because the business of telecoms was to make money on your calls, right? Then the internet came along and said, no, data is free. Data can travel for free. And now we're calling, like, this is like a TV 20, 30 years ago, and it's free. I mean, okay, we probably pay Zoom a little bit, but and that's the same thing I expect to happen in travel. We are doing something incredible today. We are paying easily $100, $200 in commission to Booking.com for one booking. And we're going to look back and say, to our nephews, and they're going to say, did you really pay $100 for a booking? I'm paying nothing, right? And then we're going to try to explain, because there was this company who helped. Like before, there was the lady on the telephone, what do you call it in English, when the lady was putting the operator manual, you had to pay those people, right? So again, replacing companies with protocols is the basic assumption, which will have a cascade effect on a lot of things. Prices, for instance, I mean, you remove 10, 15, 20% of commissions, cheaper. Innovation, because today this model, the Web 2 model, is basically a oligopoly with a few big companies. It tends to concentrate power in a few hands. So nobody's really innovating. I mean, Booking.com was like 5 years ago. I mean, what changed? Some CSS or of course, I don't want to belittle what they did. It's an amazing software, an amazing product. I use it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't seen real innovation, because the next step of innovation goes against the business model.
Yeah.
So we will see a lot of innovation. Sure.
Yeah, I'm just curious if there's ideas, as, I mean, I know it's early. Just curious from your perspective, what do you think? I mean, I think I understand, lower transaction fees, and innovation in general, but anything specific that you're excited about as it comes to that innovation in travel? I'll give you an example. So in SuperWorld, travel is very important to us as well. And, we want to add immersive technology to viewing places in the world. So if you want to go to the Taj Mahal before you buy tickets, maybe you can go to SuperWorld and view that Taj Mahal tour and experience and understand what the different options are, and, be able to then buy a ticket to go and visit. So, I mean, I think that immersive tech and Web3 kind of allow you to engage with places before you go, and maybe even after you go or while you're there. So I'm just curious, like, building on that or on other things that, we haven't thought about, what do you think is the biggest kind of innovations?
One is the composability of the open protocols, meaning that today in Web 2, if you want to build, let's say, a new OTA, a new Booking.com, a new Airbnb, you have to start from scratch and collect, try to convince everybody to come on your platform, which is basically impossible. Mm-hmm. In Web3, and maybe we've seen the first concrete step about that in the Lens protocol. I don't know if you're familiar with this social network, because your account is an NFT and your listings are NFTs on this NFT, and your reviews are reviews on the listings on the NFT, on the account NFT. Anybody can come and say, okay, do you want to be part of my platform? And all you have to do is to connect your wallet and sign a transaction, and you're in. You don't have to start over, and you bring in your listings and your reviews in a minute, right? Like today, if you have a new OTA, there's no reviews, they don't have critical mass, it's really hard. So as we've seen in DeFi, everybody can launch a Uniswap clone or something which is a mix of Uniswap and Aave, or it's going to be very, very fast. People will experiment very quickly. So we will see new things which we can't even imagine in today's Web2. That's general. Now, more specifically, I'm very excited about NFTs as bookings. So today, when you make a booking with a hotel directly or through an OTA, you are actually making a contract. So you make an agreement that you're going to stay there at that price. Maybe you paid something in advance, maybe you left your credit card, whatever. Then if you cancel, you break the contract, and the hotel has to find somebody else to do a similar contract. And that works so far. Again, this is probably skeuomorphic because the internet could do more than that, but we're still going, it's legacy thinking maybe. NFTs offer a new perspective, which is the booking is not a contract, is a digital asset. I buy from you 3 nights in specific dates, and I pay them, and now those 3 nights belong to me, and they are NFTs. And I'll do what I want with them. I can come and spend them, or I can sell them, or I can give it to somebody else. So you as a hotel sold the 3 nights, and you will get the money for sure. It's not a refundable one, right?
Yeah.
Me, well, I can resell it if I can't come. Maybe I can sell it for less, maybe for more. Maybe I'm even a speculator. I'm going to buy all your nights from 2025. If you give me a good price, I'm going to try to sell them. And if I'm a bad speculator, I lose money. Otherwise, I make money. But I bring a lot of liquidity on the market. So we make, NFTs can make these bookings, these nights, liquid and tradable. And this can change lots of dynamics in good and bad ways. I hope mostly in good ways. It seems to me a superior interpretation of what a booking is rather than a contract. And there's already a few startups playing with that. I say playing, I mean, they're working hard, but like experimenting, trying to find the right measure of this. And I'm pretty convinced that it's going to be a thing, especially when we reach critical mass, and then when it gets easy to sell your NFTs representing those nights. So this one is today, but I'm open changing my mind, and I change my mind often, is today the most exciting because it's pretty simple, and it allows to do something which wasn't possible before. So this is not skeuomorphic. This is changing the paradigm of what a booking is. And then a few other things, like you probably got some airdrops in the last years, and that was kind of by using platforms like protocols, you signaled so that the blockchain remembered that you have this kind of interest or knowledge, and so somebody who came after airdropped you some tokens to get you involved. So the kind of new kind of marketing. So I'm excited for when I'm going to have in my OpenSea collection 50 bookings in 50 hotels, and then some hotels are going to start sending me free nights or free breakfast or their tokens, etc. So the fidelization and the marketing about travel is probably going to be a thing. Again, this is also a much more, much better way because it's internet native, in the sense that representing my history in travel in this way is kind of automatic and is open for everyone to see, and it can be done programmatically by the hotels. While on Web2, everything is in a database, and it depends on the access which people are giving, and then all the APIs, everything's defragmented. So that's another thing. But I think we haven't yet imagined what's going to happen in travel with Web3 because it's a bit too early. We're gonna get more surprises, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think those are really both great use cases. I'm excited about loyalty programs being more transportable between providers as well. And to be able to kind of have that, potential ownership of that, travel identity that you have, potentially even make that an asset that you can sell. You build up an identity.
It 100%. I have a Lens profile, and I have used it a little bit because it's new, and people are trying to buy it from me on OpenSea already. And this is just something, maybe they're offering $100 at the moment. Imagine having a travel, like a profile, which is bringing in thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars in perks every year. You're gonna sell it very expensive, right? And the market in this way optimizes because it goes to the most interested person, right?
Yeah.
So in a way, if you are a hotel trying to reach the people you want to reach, the person who paid more for it will probably be more interesting, I suppose.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's definitely going to revolutionize how we think about the ways to get to know the world around us, whether it's taking a trip or, again, being able to trade in a digital asset that enables you to take the trip. So,
right. Well, it's happening already, isn't it? We are getting airdrops worth thousands or tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some people are traveling already thanks to that money. I can't imagine in the future when this picks up in the travel industry, it's very hard to imagine.
Yeah. What do you think are some of the ways that these changes could affect how Web2 companies react? I mean, I think we see it in centralized versus decentralized models across other industries. What's going to happen there? Do you think Web2 travel companies are going to have to adopt these new models to stay competitive? Or do you think that there's certain people who are going to opt to just stay on the Web2 for whatever reason?
I think it's going to be very, very mixed. There are, 20 years from now, probably some people will still book as they book today. But in general, the trend is towards these systems we talked about. And how would they react? Well, for instance, I've seen how Booking.com reacted to Web2. They adapted pretty well to the Web2 technology, which was simply, from the point of view of an OTA, simply easier to interact with the user. But then Airbnb opened the market to non-hotels, and Booking was late on that. And when they reacted for a couple of years, it was really bad. But today they are very good. So Booking successfully migrated from Web1 to Web2. Airbnb was born in Web2. How will they migrate to Web3? That's a bit different because Web3 changes the business model. Web3 allows for people to coordinate around building systems like this without needing to create a company. You rather create a DAO, and the system will make money, profit, but the profit is paid to everybody, including the guests and the hosts. Now, the model in Web2 for platforms like booking platforms is a bit broken in the sense that you have the shareholders of these companies who are defended by the law, basically. They have to make as much money as possible for the shareholders. The stakeholders the guests and the hosts, and let's talk about Airbnb. They are treated like they are not that important, or at least they don't have a voice. And that's where the model breaks a little bit, because these platforms, imagine if every host in Airbnb left, that would be like some MySQL database running empty, right? Like a box running empty.
Mm-hmm.
Hosts are part of Airbnb. They are Airbnb.
Yeah.
And guests are Airbnb because guests bring the money. So marketplaces like this, it seems to me that more distributed model where everybody's a shareholder basically is more fair. So what's going to happen when you can get a booking for the same price or a cheaper price and maybe even get some ownership of the same platform you're using, right? So when the quality of these new systems will be as good as the old systems, what keeps you in Booking? Now, today I go to Booking and I become Genius level 3. That's it. I spend thousands or $10,000. All I have to show for it is Genius 3 with some discounts, all right? Which makes sense if you don't know what's happening in Web3, because in Web3, we came to expect that if I use a platform, you're going to send me tokens, right? And I'm going to be part of this platform and I'm going to be able to vote on stuff, right? Now it's very clunky and, it's not really something we can be proud of most of the times, but I want to be part of a platform I'm using. So in the future, in travel, when I spend money in a booking, for instance, I'm staying on the booking thing, but this is my kind of my word, right? Yeah. When I stay in a hotel, I want an NFT. I'm not going to leave empty-handed. You give me a POAP or give me something, right? So if I go through a platform which doesn't give them, I won't go. Now, you could say Booking is going to give NFTs, like POAP, of course. Will they give me tokens, which give me ownership of the company? Well, they can't really do that because their duty is towards shareholders, not stakeholders.
Yeah. Got it.
Now, how can they adapt? Well, the problem is, like Booking is charging, 18%. Okay, adapt to Web3, you have to charge 1% or 0.3% like Uniswap, or 2.5% like OpenSea. The take rate, that is like the commission charged by Web3 platforms, is very low. The highest is OpenSea, 2.5, which is like, it's too much. OpenSea is charging too much, and other competitors were able to bring it to zero, right? OpenSea now is not even charging commissions for a while. Why? Because the asset, which is the listing, in our case, the NFT on OpenSea, is not in OpenSea servers. It's in our wallets. We can vote with our wallets. We can leave OpenSea and go to Blur or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Today, I can't leave Airbnb. I lose all my reviews. I can't leave Booking. I lose all my reviews. I worked 10 years for them, right? So if tomorrow I'm leaving a platform and my reviews come with me, platform loses power with me, right?
Yeah.
Now, of course, I'm painting a very simplified picture here, but it's the trend seems to be in that direction. If people have an option, it seems to me that this option, the Web3 option, is better.
Yeah, definitely more, mobility and more power for the stakeholders.
Yeah.
Whether they're, in your example, hosts or guests, or travelers, etc. Yeah, very interesting. Is there anything on the travel side that you think we haven't touched on, or anything that you want the audience to know about kind of what you're working on, or your kind of what's coming in the near term in terms of
one thing I would say, it would be interesting for SuperWorld to, I think, because I don't know too much how SuperWorld works, but the biggest problem for adoption of Web3 today are wallets. Wallets are an incredible piece of technology. They allow us to own digital assets. This is incredible. Okay.
Mhm.
At the same time, we are still early with them. And while it's not too hard to create one, just download the app, get your 12 words, write them on a piece of paper. Okay, annoying, but okay, we can do it once, right? It's really hard to keep them safe. To the point that I stopped trying to onboard people in Web3 because I know that the next thing they're going to do is to lose everything most of the times, especially if you get the value of that. The only way today to be safe in Web3 is to do this every day and be careful, and you're still not safe. You can maybe go in a contract, accept a transaction, do a transaction, you can't really read what the transaction is, and you lose all the money.
Yeah.
So it's dangerous. And the whole crypto space is working towards solutions, and they're going to come. But today, this is the biggest hurdle. So how do we overcome this in the short term while this technology is being developed? I think it's custodial wallets. It's the Binance versus the Uniswap. We started with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin super decentralized, but to trade Bitcoin, you had to go on a centralized exchange. And still today, most of the time, you have to go on a centralized exchange. We are in that moment. We are in the Binance moment of Web3. We need custodials which can keep our assets safe, or most of our assets safe, because I wouldn't use them, but most people would use them, so that we can get adoption. And then we get better wallets, which people can use without, having some kind of backup if something happens, like social recovery, abstraction, etc. So we are in that moment in which, if today you want to build something in Web3 in travel, you have to take a breath and say, okay, decentralization is great, but we have to compromise, at least for a couple of years. So if you want to build something today, compromise on this. Most people are not ready for self-sovereignty. They don't want it. They don't understand it, but they want to use these technologies. So we should offer them a way to do it. And I say this, 2 years ago, I would have never said that. I would have said this is betrayal, right? Not your keys, not your coins, right? If you give your assets to somebody else, they're going to have power over you. But then what happened, and it was very clear again with the NFT summer, like, not your keys, not your coins, your keys, not your coins too, because you're going to lose them. So, and yeah, I mean, this is what we should do now is serious companies, we do some custody, maybe hybrid custody, in which, they don't have all the power, but that's the way in the medium term, short, medium term. In the long term, we can solve it. The question will be, will people ever want to take control? Maybe not. If it's easy, yes, maybe not. But, it's a question of, it's not like 1 or 0, like more and more people will be able to take care of their assets.
Yeah. I mean, to get mainstream adoption, people definitely need some help to be able to feel more secure with those decisions of where they're storing their tokens, and to be able to more easily retrieve their accounts and to transact. So yeah, I agree with you. This has been just an amazing discussion. I've learned so much about travel. I'm gonna close it with a couple of questions that are just kind of want to learn more about, kind of things that you're very curious about and interested in. If there's anyone in the world, alive or in history, in technology or travel or Web3, in general, that you could take to lunch and meet, who would you want to do that, and what would you want to learn from this person?
Very hard question, to be honest. In technology, right?
Or anything, any area. I mean, you have so many different interests and passions and travel. It could be.
Yeah, sit down with someone and be able to ask questions.
Yeah.
I can't answer. I don't know. It's kind of my character. I realized I have no capability for remorse. Not remorse, sorry, that would make him Doctor Evil, for regret, or nostalgia. Like whatever it happened. So, and I'm very curious, it's true, but I also I like to kind of go ahead where maybe nobody has been before. That's where I have fun. Like
Mhm.
going back to the big, the people who are, the big people. I don't know. I don't know. It never crossed my mind. So sorry for I'm not able to answer. Nobody comes to mind. Of course, I mean, I would love to sit down with Steve Jobs or many others, but it's not something which I'm thinking about as a dream, because it's impossible. I don't know, and also because look, we have so much. Like if I told you I wanted to stay to spend a lunch with Steve Jobs,
Yeah.
I should have read everything he ever said or listened to everything he ever said, and
Mhm.
I didn't do that. So it means that uh, there are things which I find more intriguing, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so maybe that.
One area of travel, I think, in the metaverse is time travel. So being able to go to history and be able to experience conversations with people.
Yeah, in
Yeah,
kind of time travel, I would go to the Renaissance and see
yeah,
what was really like at the time, why there was all this energy, what made it possible, and beauty. Why in such an era beauty was that important?
mhm,
Because today beauty is kind of associated with pleasure in a way. Like, is the thing you look for when you can afford it, or is frivolous? Well, beauty, and being Italian, I have this kind of cultural uh, understanding. Beauty is more important than it seems. It From beauty, because there's beauty in mathematics, and there's beauty in programming, and there's beauty in many other things. So I would try to go. I would try to understand why beauty was that important at the time.
yeah. That's
I have the feeling that there's something more than there's something more than what we see in beauty. There's the order, or there's a message in terms of what we should really aspire to. So yeah, the Renaissance would be a nice thing to go through.
yeah, you're right. There's a lot more to it on a very intrinsic level. The simplicity.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, just the mathematics of beauty are, pretty clear. So we find something beautiful because there's some numbers. It's representable with some numbers, and why, the Fibonacci sequence and etc.
yeah,
So yeah, those kind of things, and that's the way I like to think. I like to take away all the colors and all the fat around things, and see just the structure. That's because that allows you then to see completely different domains and understand them too. Like, music is the same. Music is mathematics. Uh, so yeah, Renaissance.
yeah. I love that. Okay, and then one final question, and this is kind of related to Superworld. We have virtual real estate all over the world, 100 meter by 100 meter plots of virtual real estate, and you can buy a plot and become a stakeholder in that location. And
Do you still have free spaces?
yeah, there's 64 billion properties around the world. So
Okay,
any
but
place.
can you still mint it for the first time, or there's a secondary market already?
There is a secondary market, but you can mint many
Oh,
properties for the first time.
oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, have an interest in any part of the world, there's likely properties in that area that you will be able to find. So the question for you is, what's your favorite part of the world? If there's a location in the world that you would acquire virtual real estate in Superworld, where would that be and why?
I I know the answer to this one.
Okay.
So I would buy the places where I've been happy. Like I would buy that little piece of land in Bali where I spend time. I would buy a little piece of land in the Gili Islands close to Bali. I would buy something in Venice because I'm from there. Something in Poland because I lived there and I was very happy, etc. So Well, the problem will be that I would spend all my money because there's so many places where I've been happy. But yeah, I would like to own those places which are dear to me. So I wouldn't go speculative about that, like, trying to get the good places. I'm sure they're gone already. So, but the places where I have been and they have some meaning for me, I will buy those.
Nice. No, that's a very good answer. A lot of people want to.
And
Yes.
that will make it impossible to sell them also. So hodling.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you have this connection to these places.
Yeah, that would be hard to sell. Yeah.
And what's funny is that a lot of people do that naturally as they acquire places that they just feel good about or have some kind of real just strong personal connection to. So that makes a lot of sense. Well, I've really enjoyed this, Luca, and we're looking at a lot of travel opportunities in SuperWorld, and so looking forward to figuring out how we can collaborate with your community, and very excited to continue the conversation. How can people find you online? What's the best place to find you?
Well, Twitter is TripLuca, TripLuca. And from there you can follow everything. So you can go to TripsCommunity and all the rest. I think Twitter is the easiest one.
Awesome.
Or now on Lens, but tripluca.lens. That's the new thing we're gonna use in the future, I suppose. Or tripluca.eth, my Ethereum address, or tripluca.btc, because I got that one. No, sorry, tripluca.sats. I bought this Bitcoin domain the other day, but there's nothing there at the moment.
Nice. Yeah. So that you are definitely thinking about all of these profiles in a very strategic sense, I noticed. So
we started building our assets like our fathers and grandfathers were buying houses.
Yeah.
Right. To have a piece of land. We now, okay, let me finish with this. And this is Balaji saying this very clearly. Internet is the new America. So if you want to have something in your life, you need to own something online. And this sounds like a line we arranged before the call, but it's not.
Yeah.
You need to own digital assets. And sometimes when I get airdrops of tokens, I don't sell them because I say this is like getting a piece of Manhattan before Manhattan exists. Or maybe it's a piece of Ohio. I don't know. We will see. But this is ownership of land. Even tokens are lands in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. I love that. And I think as we think of travel and Web3, I think the things that you really talked about kind of opened our eyes to what's possible and how the innovation is going to make this the world a lot smaller in terms of travel and getting to know the world. So very excited for that, and really great to hear all your stories. Thanks again for being on the Building a Better World podcast, and looking forward to more conversations. Thanks, Luca.
All right. Thanks a lot.